Morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I gotta get my water set up. I am Marco Rogers, and I'm going to be talking about building a career ladder for engineers. But just a heads up really quick, I have a lot to say on this topic, and yet we only have 30 minutes, right? So I made a choice that I wanted to kind of stuff a lot into the slides so that people who want to kind of follow up and spend more time with the content can be there. So it might feel like we're moving through the slides relatively quickly. This is something that I'm experimenting with. You all are the guinea pigs. I apologize, but let's go. Clicker, yeah, there we go. I let my wife loose to put some slick design on these slides. If you let your partner do your slide, she might put your face on it. If that's something that makes you self-conscious, just know that may happen to you. But I have created a career ladder at a couple of companies now and rolled them out successfully. And I wanted to basically come in and share some of my experience with that, talk about like why you might want to do that, and give you a lot of tidbits about like where it can go wrong or things you want to be considerate about. And I kind of threw that last bullet on there just to kind of get a temperature for the room, right? So before I became a manager, I actually never worked at a place that had a career ladder. Like, is that true of anybody in the room? Like, you just got hired and they like paid you money. Maybe you even got raises, but they couldn't tell you where you were going, right? And maybe you didn't even have a title or anything like that. That's super, super common. And so that's also kind of what we're going to get into is like why you would want to do this and how it can be helpful and effective. So breaking this topic down was difficult, but I decided I wanted you to walk away with 3 main takeaways. I've organized these loosely based on kind of talking about the why of career ladders, talking about the what of career ladders, and kind of maybe demystifying them a little bit, and then a lot about the how, which I kind of almost called like the WTF. But we're going to kind of get into some of the things that come after a career. You kind of create a career ladder. So let's kind of jump into that. The first one, I wanted to start off with a bold statement, controversial statement, and that's there's no such thing as a flat organization. When I moved to the Bay Area in about 2011, and the company that I worked at there is called Yammer, and that's where I stepped into the management role first about 9 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that. And at that time, it was very common and even kind of expected that like organizations wanted to be flat. They would tell you like, well, yeah, we maintain a flat organization. And they would even say that like it was like a good thing, like they were like helping you out, like, oh, you don't have to worry about titles, right? And so I wanted to start with this to say that I would like to influence all of us to kind of move away from that. And there's lots of reasons for it. But like having a flat organization is this idea that people don't spend time talking about or thinking about levels and promotions because there's so many other things to do. And I'm going to kind of paint the opposite picture of that. There's no kind of flat organization. There's only organizations that have not yet invested in making their career path visible to their engineers. Like there are things happening at your company, people get promoted, people move, but you haven't given them any information about how that happens. So let's kind of talk about the why, right? First and foremost, there's a lot of leaders and managers in this room, and I would bet money that a lot of you are talking about how hard it is to hire. And a lot of you are talking about how, anytime someone decides to move on from the organization, it can hurt pretty badly, right? Like, projects get kind of stalled and, hiring is expensive. You kind of have to refill those positions. And so, like, this idea of managing your hiring and your retention is a big topic. And I'm making the statement that I think bringing a career ladder, like an effective and robust career ladder into your organization can help you with many, many aspects of those kinds of problems, okay? So if you are kind of thinking about why you would want to do this, you might want to start with like what kind of impact do you want to have. My primary reason for wanting a career ladder, like I brought it into the last 2 companies that I'm at, is to have an impact on hiring and retention. To build a team, build an awesome team, I have to get them to work for me, and I have to get them to stay, right? Because like if they don't stay, you're like constantly building a team, and if you're constantly building a team, you're probably not building a product, which is kind of a problem. So let's kind of unpack this a little bit. You may have these goals in mind when you're thinking about like what impact you expect to have with a career ladder. Engagement is something that we talk about a lot. We're going to dive into that. Maybe you're looking to give people that visible path that I was talking about. Maybe you're focused on retention because you kind of are dealing with high turnover. Hiring is a big deal. Like it's becoming more and more a critical function of the organization. You want to make more consistent offers to people. You care about pay equity, and you want to make sure that people in the same role are making the same money. Or you're trying to like grow the team, turn them into a more kind of high-performing team. You want to give your managers more tools to be able to give feedback and help them with performance reviews, right? So this slide is about thinking about what your goals are before you kind of jump into a career path, and we'll jump into a little bit of each one of these and why I think they're important. So we know a lot about why engineers might choose to work at a company. They're looking for like to work with the most innovative technology, or they really love the product. They love the mission that you have. You have something that you're trying to have an impact on, and they want to be a part of that. People care about compensation. Some people don't like to talk about compensation. Some companies don't like to talk about compensation, but everybody cares about it, and it's a factor in how they choose the next place they're going. And then there's like career growth, right? And when you have a flat organization, like this is the one that you're just kind of like punting on, right? And people care a lot about career growth as a way that they choose a company, and they get really disappointed when you tell them that like you're not thinking about it at all, right? So personal growth is becoming a major driver for candidates. We've been neglecting to provide them this career path. We don't have that luxury anymore. People are. So I used to work at a company called Lever, which did recruiting and hiring, and one of the things that we talked about a lot is how you see these trends where, engineers specifically, but even in wider trend, people are staying in their jobs for less and less time, right? Rather than having a career path at the same company, people feel stalled. And there's a lot of conversation that sounds like, the way that you get ahead is by gaining some experience and then moving to the next job and convincing them to hire you for more money or for a higher position. I know that a lot of people in this room have kind of seen those conversations or even been part of those conversations. And I've watched this shift, and I've done a fair bit of hiring as a hiring manager as well. And I've watched this shift from engineers asking about technology and product to asking primarily about the culture at your company and the opportunities for growth, right? Like they don't even know the technology. They're like, well, I was doing Python, and y'all do JavaScript, great, I will do that. But tell me how you get promoted, right? Like that is a thing that I have experienced, but just not that rudely. Career growth drives engagement. This is the stance that I take, but I hope it kind of resonates with a lot of you as well. Showing people the recognition and rewards that they can get at your organization is a big part of making them feel valued. People want feedback on how they're doing, and they have to feel like they're progressing at your organization. And you need to give yourself and them some structure for how to have those conversations, both about recognition and reward. Like, what does it mean? Like, telling people, oh, you're doing great means nothing. Like, they're like, oh, cool, and they walk away and they're like, I don't know what to do with that, right? But giving them some kind of recognition in the form of a level increase means a lot, right? And conversely, people want to, when we talk about progress, people want to feel like they started in a place, they got this feedback, they worked hard, they made this progress, and that progress was also recognized because you gave them that feedback. There has to be a loop wherein they responded to the feedback you gave them and that got recognition. And without some kind of structure to say you went from here to here, like that feedback loop doesn't really happen in the way that helps people grow, right? We talked a little bit about culture, and culture is not a huge part of this talk, but I threw this in here as kind of a nice kind of tidbit, right? When we talk about culture, announcing a promotion is one of the most engaging things that can happen at your organization. Like, you fill your entire quota of like Slack emojis when you post that someone got a promotion, right? And it's not just engineers, but everybody else loves to see that things are happening at the organization and that people are feeling rewarded. So Career ladders are also a tool for managers. I think they're primarily a tool for managers. Like I tell people, take these into your one-on-ones, take these into your performance reviews as a way to help you understand what you are supposed to be talking to people about in these meetings, right? Not just like, how are you doing for like, like every week over and over, right? But hey, we are charting a career path forward for you. I also want to know how you're doing, but also let's check in on what's going to help you get to that next level. Like your engineers are going to feel much more engaged with that conversation. It can help with promotions and compensation. We'll talk a little bit about that. And it dovetails with hiring a lot, right? And again, like I said, this is a really wide topic, but you can start to see that it sits at the kind of crux of a lot of things that you care about, and it can be a really great tool for that. So last but not least, a lot of us in this room, I think, the lead dev being a pretty progressive conference, are engaged with diversity and equity and inclusion at our organizations, and there's a lot of activity around that. You'll hear me kind of talk about being more consistent with how you help people grow. And one of the reasons for that is that improving things like inclusion requires a lot of trust. Like you ask for a lot of trust from your team. And building trust requires having a consistent track record for helping people manage their career at your company, right? I'm going to say that again because it's early in the morning. Super important. Building inclusion requires trust, and you build trust when people feel like their manager is showing up and helping them understand how to be successful, not just giving them more work, not just patting them on the back when they finish work, but this is a place we want you to stay, and I'm going to show you by working with you to show you what progress looks like here. Because the longer people don't feel progress at your organization, like someone else is going to show them progress, right? Like another organization is going to show them progress, or they're going to make a choice that they can do better somewhere else, right? So getting into the more of the kind of concrete aspects of a career ladder, right? We're going to talk about what a career ladder might look like. So the takeaway here, the senior level, is your anchor. It'll become more clear as we go through it. What is a career ladder? There might be some people in the room, like when we talk about it, they don't really get a picture in their head of what it is, so I wanted to spend a second. A career ladder, in its simplest form, a career ladder specifies levels that engineers can attain at your organization, usually represented by numbers or some kind of like title. And a level designation is how someone understands what is expected of them, how they are supposed to perform, right? So you have people at your organization who may be just starting out, maybe they just got out of school or out of a boot camp, and those people are going to have very different expectations from a person who's got 5 or 6 years of experience and considers himself to be a senior engineer. When you have a flat organization, both of those people have no idea what the difference is between their work, right? They don't know how to think about what they're supposed to be capable of versus what this other person is capable of. I hear a lot of this all the time when I talk to people, engage them on career ladders, right? So the main thing to take away from this is that when you release a career ladder, moving from one level to the next should be a significant event for that engineer, for your organization. Like, it should be the thing that makes them feel like progress, and it should be something that is celebrated ideally. And promotions usually come with compensation adjustments, which people love. Who knew? But like, people like getting money. Talking about, you can kind of create a document that has some levels in it, but there's so many unanswered questions. You have to start digging in and figuring out what are the details of how a career path works at your organization. How many levels do you have, right? I did some research, right? I was looking at huge companies like, Google and Microsoft, and I've created career ladders mostly at startups that look like, mid-size, like maybe like Series B, Series C kind of type companies. And then there's like really small companies, which I've been at as well, have that flat structure or no career ladder, and tried to kind of introduce some. There's other questions that you can see here, and the one at the end is the one that I like to talk about, which is like, which level is the senior title? You have to have one. I don't like for a lot of this to be prescriptive, but this is the one I have strong opinions about. You have to choose one of those levels and you have to make it senior, right? And you have to decide, because Senior is the only level that anybody understands. Okay? When you talk to people about levels, they have no idea what level they are. They have no idea what level anybody else is. But everybody has opinions about who is senior and who is not. Right? And that includes managers. That includes people who are not engineers, people who come up to your team and like, oh, I need this person. It's really, really important. But like, I need so-and-so because they're like pretty senior, right? And I'm like, I don't think you really know what that means. But they have an idea of who they want based on this idea of who's senior, right? And I talk about using this as an anchor because everybody has a relationship with senior, right? Like people below senior, that's something for them to aspire to. That's what you're giving them when you talk about progress. You're going to be like, stay here, we're going to help you grow, and one day you are going to be senior, and you're going to be able to take that with you even if you leave the organization, right? People who have reached senior, they want that to be recognized. They want the recognition that comes with that, whether it be more responsibility or the ability to make big decisions and things like that. And so when you tell them that you have a flat organization and you tell them we don't really talk about senior, like you're really taking that away from them. That's why it's kind of weird that people talk about it like, oh, I'm doing you a favor so you don't have to think about it. Like, oh, what do you mean? Like, it's the only thing that I've been trying to do for the last X years, right? And there's also those people with really strong expertise at your organization, and they're wondering like what's next, right? Like they're not confused about whether they're senior. Even if you don't want to talk about it, they're like, whatever, I am senior and I'm going to tell people that. You can say whatever you want. But more so, I've been doing this for like 15 years. I'm pretty sure that like if there's a thing after that, like I'm whatever that is. So that's what I want to talk about. Right? And so you kind of have to set an anchor for people, and you have to help them progress along that ladder, because they all have opinions, they all care about it. And the more you tell them that you're not thinking about it, like they're going to go talk to somebody else who's thinking about it. So you'll hear a theme here, by the way. I'm like really into hiring also. So let's look at some career ladders. I thought about kind of diving in to like what it actually is to create one, but I thought it probably, like leaving people in this room, there's a lot of different kind of organizations. You may be starting at different places. And instead, I kind of just do a quick tour of different kinds of things that you might engage with rather than choosing one and having it feel like it doesn't really work for you. I gave them all clever names, and they all start with an S, so you know that I thought about it a little bit. But let's take a look. So the first one is the one that I like to call the starter kit, because it's where a lot of people start when they go from being flat to saying like we gotta have something, right? It's just a really simple kind of 3-level system, and it usually doesn't come with any kind of descriptions, but it's more like you're having that conversation with that person who has been doing this for like 5 or 6 years, like I said, and then you hire someone who's like relatively new. And you kind of have that conversation with this senior person, and they're like, well, like, I don't think it makes sense for us to keep being flat. Like, I'm doing way more work. Like, you can have that conversation. It's really unpleasant, but you kind of have to stick with it. It's like, yeah, you are doing a lot of work. Like, it has to be a thing that we talk about. And so maybe we need these levels so that I can talk about it with you. You definitely are a senior at this organization, and I can paint a picture of that. So it looks super simple. You just you just start with 3 things, and one of them is like you're just starting out, and another one is you're senior, and then like you put one in the middle because like it takes a while to get from one to the other one, right? And it kind of looks like this, and it's fine, especially if you're small and you're just growing, right? But I kind of wanted to illustrate what this feels like to your team. I drew this myself because I really wanted to capture what I've seen and what I feel from people when I exist in this starter kit kind of mode. Where like junior people, like people that you just hired, they are ecstatic, they're enthusiastic, they got a job, they're like, great, whatever, I'm gonna do the thing. They have lots of questions, they don't know what anything means, but they're excited, right? You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. The senior people, like, they're usually good, right? They know that they're senior, even if you won't talk about it, like I said, they know. You don't have to really tell them. But then there's this vast space in between, right? Where you've allowed someone to kind of graduate from being junior, right? That's the only question you get from junior people is like, how do I not be junior? Like, how do I get people to stop calling me that, But then they get into this like nebulous mid-level space, And the only definition for this level is like not senior yet. Like those people just ask you like, hey, I am kicking ass, like aren't I senior yet? And you're like, not quite, right? That's an extremely unsatisfying answer, but you will answer it like every week. When you ask how you're doing, like get ready, right? So this one, I think the main thing is like that this one doesn't scale, right? Like I've got these slides, like take my advice, it doesn't really scale. You can live here for a little bit, but when you start to feel that strain, when you're getting a lot of these questions, when it's been a while, when it's been 2 years, and that person who's junior really doesn't want to be junior anymore, right? You're gonna have to start moving people along this track, right? Because if you then take that person, you say, fine, you are not junior anymore. You can start on this like long desert of mid. And this other person who's already been doing it for a couple of years, they're like, oh, okay, well, now there clearly is a difference between me and that person because I've been doing it for much longer in X, Y, and Z, right? Like they're kind of, they're at the beginning of infinity and I'm far into infinity, okay? So this doesn't scale with you. You really want to blow this out, and that's when you start getting to more of the nitty gritty, right? There's work to do after the starter kit. So I put these slides in after each one, and that's just something to kind of noodle on. Like there are things that are intriguing about each one of these models that might feel like it's a good fit for you. And I also listed some things that I would worry about if you're going into this model and either address those explicitly or do some things to kind of mitigate. The biggest problem with the starter kit is that your senior people are topped out. They don't have anywhere to go. And the longer they stay there, right, like you're going to be at risk of losing them because they also need to feel that progress, right? So the next one is the snowflake model. This one that a lot of people have actually heard about and get asked questions about. If you're a manager, you get asked questions about it. It was really popularized by Medium. That did this whole like series of posts really digging in and explaining like why they did it and how they came up with it. It's a really robust and sophisticated system for taking these different dimensions of how you might want to evaluate an engineer, giving them these scores, and then coalescing that score into some kind of level, right? At the end, they get some kind of level and a number, but the process is much more sophisticated. And I like this a lot because it, we go to the next slide, it gives people a lot of fidelity, right? Like, people can really try to get a sense for a lot of the different things that you care about. When you have no ladder, right? Like people what they ask you about is like, I finished that last project and it was good. Like, doesn't that mean that I did well? And like as a manager, you want to be like, yeah, but also like, oh man, there's like so much more stuff though, and we only got like 30 minutes in this one-on-one, right? Like, I got hard stop, man, 3:30, sorry. But you really got to start unpacking those things for them. And the thing I really like about what Medium and folks that are doing the snowflake model are doing is that they're creating these tools so that engineers can engage with them on their own, right? Like they can go look and be like, oh, I really need to push along this axis if I'm really trying to make it to the next level. It's something that's really engaging for them, right? Engineers love numbers, right? Like they really want to put a number on this and say, when I reach this, there's a thing on it that said points to next level. Oh man, people love it. Okay, but this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? Like when you go down this road, you are taking on a significant project, and engineers love this kind of thing because it takes away a lot of the ambiguity, but that also adds a lot of risk. Like if you find that you got this wrong and you want to change the model and how it works, all of a sudden their numbers don't mean the same thing. Oh man, they're not going to be happy, right? So you have to put the time into making this good. Let's kind of keep moving forward. There's some things that are intriguing about this. It escapes the rigidity of a ladder. Like I call this a ladder because I think it makes sense to people. People kind of move up a ladder. But what's nice about the snowflake model is that like it really kind of highlights that each person is actually going to have a unique combination of strengths and weaknesses, which all your engineers know, right? And they get really antsy when they feel like this area that they're weak in is keeping them from getting promoted. But this kind of thing can really open it up and say, well, I do want you to continue to work on that, but you're really, really strong over here, and at some point we're going to make a decision to move you into the next level because you kind of have a lot of these offsets, right? So it's nice in that sense. It's difficult to onboard into as a manager. Like, you bring managers on and I have to explain this to people, especially new managers, man. Like, they're going to have a tough time, right? If you have a new manager and they're managing like a relatively senior engineer, that engineer is just going to run over them. Like, they're going to use this model to make their lives very hard, right? So keep that in mind. This is the one that I like. This is the one that I would talk to you about. It really strikes a nice balance. It's one document, and it strikes a really nice balance between like flexibility, but not kind of being so much of a project. And it's just like a spreadsheet. It's like a matrix spreadsheet. And down the left side is like each level, we're forming a row. And across the top is any different criteria that you want to speak to, whether it be technical skill, whether it be communication, collaboration, like anything you feel like you want to like put into your like career ladder as something that's important. You kind of put it along the top row. And it ends up looking like this, something like this. So what I got into career ladders, the thing that I ran into was the career ladder that Camille Fournier released when she was at Rent the Runway. And I ended up kind of talking to her, and Camille and I are acquainted now, and she talked to me a lot about how she ended up here, but it was just a really concrete example. Like, you can go look at it, there's a link down there, and you just pull it up. Just copy this, actually. Just copy it. I'm not trying to create work for you. I want to tell you what it is, but just copy it and start with this. But the idea is that you sit down with this matrix, right, and you have X number of levels on the side, and columns along the top, and you start to fill those in, right? And so my advice on this, fill in every box. It's one document, but fill in every box. If there's like a person who is at this level and they scroll over to that column and there's nothing in that box, you just created problems for yourself. Okay? I know that this is gonna be hard. It's harder than you even think when you start. Like, you have 6 levels, right? And you have 4 columns. That's a lot of boxes. So many boxes. You have to write words in to describe what is needed. So hard. Do it anyway, right? It's perfectly okay to also put no expectations at this level. At a previous company, I created a category that I thought was really, really important, and I called it strategic alignment. Like, I really want engineers to care if they are strategically aligned with where the business is trying to go, rather than just kind of working on whatever they think they want to work on, right? So hard to fill in that box, right? And to tell a level 1, like entry-level person, like, what do I need you to do for strategic alignment? Like, nothing. Just like take some Jira tickets. It'll be great. Like, we'll get there later. No expectations at this level. Totally okay. We're not going fast enough, so I'm going to speed up a little bit, right? So just to round this out, right? Again, senior is the level that you use as an anchor, and you build outwards from there. Like, spend some time formalizing what that means. Talk to people about it. Use the levels below senior to have people focus on their growth and getting to full autonomy and really developing the depth that they need in order to be senior. And then spend the levels above senior getting people to engage with higher impact stuff, take on much, much more responsibility. Like, those senior people are asking you, like, what does it mean to be a principal engineer? It's like, okay, well, first of all, it means that you can't ask questions anymore, right? Like, you got to be the person to figure things out. So let's talk about that. But there is a level, and when you get there, we will talk about it. Right? So I want to go through this last piece because it's super important. I'm gonna run over time a little bit, but you hopefully are getting a sense for what kind of project this is. But it's not just like creating this document. There's always more there. And the messaging and rollout of this is going to be really critical. It's not just important for your engineering team, but it has impacts on a lot of other stakeholders, right? You kind of have to get buy-in from your executives. You may have to, dig into new compensation bands to go along with your new levels. You have to talk to HR and recruiting. Like, this is going to go in some HR system that a person is like a level 3 engineer. You have to message to the team, and you have to do a really critical exercise where you take people and place them in the new levels. Like, the rollout of it, everybody at your organization currently is going to find out what their level is. Those are some interesting conversations. I could paint a really quick picture where I went from having the starter kit with 3 levels to blowing out to like 7 levels, and I kind of picked senior to be level 4. So there's a bunch of people who were at level 3, which they considered senior, and then had to be placed in either level 3 on the new ladder, which is not senior, or level 4 on the new ladder, which is senior. And like that was our call, like the manager's call as we talked about what level they were at. And then we had to explain to those people how we made that decision, right? Like these things get really real really fast. Many other policies you're going to have to engage with, budgets, right? Like creating 3 more levels above senior, like blew up some people's spreadsheets. They wanted to have a conversation with me. Interviewing and hiring, like I think I want to go to the hiring slide, right? Because like one thing that happens here is you get to start talking about your career ladder with candidates, right? They come in and they want to know, like, how do I grow? You're like, boom, I'm about to draw these levels on the board for you. I could pull up a spreadsheet right now. They love it, right? And they can see that you put thought into it, and they want to work with you on that. They want to be like, oh, I can see right now that, like, if I do these things, then I can be senior, right? I feel like I understand I'm not that now, but I want to be there, and you've thought about this, and you're going to help me with it. Like, you can close people with this, trust me, right? But make it clear in your offer, right? If you are making someone an offer, it has to come with a level, so that they know, are they coming in as senior or not coming in at senior? Don't wait until after they accept to explain that to them. And finally, kind of leaving you with the main takeaways, right? We talked about a lot of things. I know I breezed through a lot of things. Please come back to these slides. But you do not have a flat organization. You just have one with no career ladder yet. Use senior as a way to help explain it to yourself, to your peer managers, and to your team. And really spend time, after you created the ladder, really spend time on the messaging and the rollout. Like, get people involved with how to make it successful. Otherwise, it can be pretty disruptive, and you'll spend a lot of your time managing it. Like, if you don't change manage well, then the change will like manage you, and like everybody here knows what that feels like. It's not great, right? So I'm over time. So that's pretty much it for me. Please do reach out. I would love to talk to more people about this, and I'd love to hear what you think. That's it.